We've now covered almost every facet of campus commuting on a motorbike, with one notable exception: riding gear. Welcome to Bike Like a Dog. Please be sure to like and subscribe before you go today. And now we're going to get into this last segment of our campus transportation series. So now that you've finally decided that a motorbike is your best campus commuting option, found a bike that meets your need, and even chose a ripping helmet, that's it, right? Well, maybe. But let's think about gear for a minute. When we talk about motorcycle gear, our natural inclination is to think about crash proofing, kind of like a helmet, right? But gear needed for commuting to campus is really much more than that. Cold, heat, rain, and whatever else nature wants to throw at you while you're commuting, you're in it on a motorbike. Now, weather is very location dependent, which is going to make your gear very location dependent. And even if you're in Illinois, where helmets are not legally required, you may decide to get one anyway, just so that it can keep your head warm in cold weather. For those living in Oregon or Washington, you're probably going to need some sort of rain gear. For those in Nevada, rain is defined by Merriam-Webster as water falling in drops condensed from vapor in the atmosphere. I know it sounds strange, right? But that actually happens in some parts of the world, just not where you live. All right, so for gear, the two top priorities in my mind are roughly equivalent. The first priority is it should be gear designed for motorcycle riding. For example, let's think about gloves. While a pair of leather garden or driving gloves will likely be less expensive than motorcycle gloves, they're going to shred in about a second if you slide on pavement, because the stitching in those gloves isn't designed to slide on asphalt, and it's immediately going to pop. The leather is not going to cause an issue. It's going to be the stitching. Motorcycle gloves have reinforced stitching as well as some additional padding and everything because they're made for the situation where you fall and slide on pavement. The same can be said for other gear that's made specifically for motorcycles. There are safety ratings involved, and you can look those up. I'm not going to go into them here. I will link videos, two videos, one from Big Rock Moto and another one from Doodle on a Motorcycle. Ian at Big Rock Moto is talking about the armor involved in gear, and Doodle talks about the abrasion and stuff like that for the ratings and stuff for gear. Trade-offs, of course, for gear are going to typically be style, comfort, bulk, weight, and so forth. Obviously, the more it costs, the less bulky, more flexible, all that kind of stuff. Now, the second priority for gear, almost as important as the first, is that the gear has got to make the student look really cool. And that probably just horrified the parents who are sitting there going, oh, no. It needs to be safe. The most important thing is that it's incredibly safe. Well, here's the problem. The safest piece of gear is completely useless if it's sitting on a bedroom floor under a pile of something in the corner. Other than possibly helmets, gear isn't legally required. And you don't get to see what they're wearing each day before they head out the door. If it's not a piece of gear they like and want to wear, they're not going to. When I was getting my son to look at jackets and other pieces of gear, I told him he needed to look for something that he would wear even if he wasn't on a motorcycle. In other words, a jacket that he would pick up and throw on even if he was just going to get in the car to go somewhere. If that jacket would be his first choice under any circumstance, then he's not going to have a problem with wearing it on a bike. On the other hand, if the only reason he's wearing the jacket is because he's on a motorcycle, it's probably going to be forgotten more and more often until it ends up in that corner covered up again. Now let's talk specifics. Gloves. Gloves provide several functions. They not only protect hands in the case of accidents, but they also block wind, cold, road debris, and so forth. I started with a single pair, and now I have 3 main pair. One for cold, probably heated if you live where it gets really cold. One for rain, and the other one is mesh for warmer weather. Now, because I live in the Southeast, I probably wear my mesh gloves for about 80% of my street riding. Gloves can be fairly inexpensive, which is why having multiple pairs isn't a problem. It's not like having multiple helmets, for example. Oh yeah, you can spend a lot of money on a pair of gloves. You want to go get some MotoGP $500 or $600 gloves, but this is one place where cool doesn't really kick in as much, and so you can get typically much less expensive gloves than that. And once you're used to wearing gloves when riding, it feels really weird riding without them. Next, motorcycle riding boots, shoes, or sneakers. These won't be as crucial for those riding on motorbikes with like automatic transmissions, like a scooter or something, but for someone on a bike with a foot shifter, it's kind of a must. It doesn't take long to destroy a pair of canvas sneakers due to wearing out the top of your left toe from shifting. Not to worry, there are riding sneakers specifically made to avoid that, with the added benefit that they won't shred in seconds in case of an accident. Lots of different styles of footwear available: sneakers, street boots, ADV boots, touring boots, all kinds of stuff. You should be able to find something that your student feels is cool and that doesn't break the bank. You'll want to keep in mind the same weather issues as for gloves, with one critical difference. Waterproof boots are all well and good until you're in a downpour and they become water-filled buckets on your feet. If water can't get in, it also can't get out. And that's where having rain gear comes in, specifically rain gear that covers your legs, including the top of your boots, so that you don't have water soaking through your pants, running down your legs and into your boots where it gets trapped and can't get out. Personally, I like something that packs up small, that's easy to put in a backpack or a scooter case. In my neck of the woods, we're talking about a fairly rare occasion when it's raining at exactly the time you need to go somewhere on your motorcycle. Now, there are areas of the country where the exact opposite is true. It's unusual for it not to be raining when you're trying to go somewhere. And if you live in an area like that, you might want something a bit more robust. My son rode to campus for class his entire sophomore year at UGA without having rain gear. Only after we went on a local ride during the summer, when we rode home in a downpour for an hour, did he acquiesce to getting some. And by the way, the pants are not going to do you a lot of good if you got water pouring down your back into them. So jacket and pants, just saying. Gloves, boots, maybe some rain gear is probably going to be sufficient for like 90% of your commuting needs. That said, I am a huge proponent of motorcycle riding pants, riding jeans, riding hoodies, jackets, and the like. Even if they don't have armor or the student removes it, at least they can protect against abrasion. Now, students are going to see a lot of other riders zipping around in shorts, flip-flops, t-shirts, and everything, not only on motorbikes, but also on electric skateboards, scooters, and bicycles. And if they're in a state where helmets are not required, chances are there'll be a lot of students not wearing helmet, and maybe even the majority. But while, look, I understand that when it's 85 to 90 degrees outside during the spring and fall months, you're not going to want to wear heavy gear like riding jeans or a riding jacket. I get that. I actually have been in Athens on my son's bike during warm weather, riding from his house to campus. I get that, okay? And even mesh gear is pretty warm when you're sitting at a traffic signal with the sun beating down on you. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you you need to be at GAT for all those 3 miles to campus and back. Now, for those who don't know, at GAT is ATGATT, which is the acronym for all the gear, all the time. However, when the weather starts cooling off, and you start putting on heavier clothing, why not make sure the jacket you're wearing is a motorcycle jacket instead of some jacket you picked up at Target? Why not have a pair of motorcycle jeans instead of regular jeans? Even if you take the armor out of the motorcycle jeans. Motorcycle riding jeans have something like a Kevlar lining in the jeans, or possibly Kevlar or some other material that's woven directly into the fabric. I have a couple of pairs of riding jeans, and you would be hard pressed to identify them as riding jeans without close examination. They look like regular jeans. As I said, if you're going to be wearing something warmer anyway, why not make it something that will also help improve your safety? If you make the decision to commute on a motorbike, there is a relatively remote possibility that you'll be involved in some mishap during your round trip of half a dozen miles. Meanwhile, there is a 100% certainty that you'll encounter some kind of adverse weather conditions on those rides. So students, I'm going to give you a scenario here that was presented in my Yamaha Champions Riding School class. In it, they had a new rider riding in a car in his underwear. The rider insisted that he didn't need any motorcycle gear. They took the car up to 30 miles per hour, which is the average speed of most motorcycle accidents. Then they opened the door and told him to jump. Of course he didn't. But can you imagine how much of his skin he'd have left on that asphalt if he'd jumped and rolled at 30 miles per hour? As I said, even if you take out the armor, the pants and jackets will help protect your skin if you hit the pavement for any reason. Good riding on a motorcycle requires a level of alertness, responsibility, and maturity that extends beyond that needed to drive a car. Cars have lots of safety built into them that helps many drivers doing stupid things keep from winning stupid prizes. Motorbikes cannot duplicate that. You ride a bike and do stupid things, you will win stupid prizes. And now that completes my college transportation series. Hopefully this series has helped some college students and their families at least look into a type of transportation that they normally would never have even thought of. Whether you decide to do it or not, at least it's got it into your consideration. If I've missed something, let me know in the comments. Maybe I can address it in a future video. Thanks for stopping by. Be sure to catch all the other installments of this series. And even though we're done with college transportation, that's not the end of this channel. So please like and subscribe. I'll be talking to you next time. Until then, bye y'all.